All right, friends. As prefaced on episode 75 of the Spicer Speaking podcast, my guest this week, yeah, he's a pal, supports this endeavor. He's a playing partner and competitor. He's also a colleague and worked together on many, many articles. Oh, and did I neglect to mention he has long been considered alongside and in concert with his sibling Janine Henebry, one of the foremost golf photographers in the world. Welcome, Johnny Henebry, back to the Spicer Speaking podcast. Long time, Johnny. I think I saw you 20 hours ago.
Yeah, we had a nice little round at Desert Island with no wind. Today's a little blustery. I don't know if I should say that for the Chamber of Commerce, but
That's all right.
the
We don't.
weather. We had a beautiful day, beautiful afternoon. Ended up nobody was in front of us or behind us at the
Yeah,
Desert Island.
yeah,
Yeah.
which was atypical of late, as that place has been busier this season, as you said. Now, Desert Island, of course, one of many, many, many. I don't even know how many golf courses you've shot since you've been doing this since like the mid 80s. Um, but that is not, of course, the only golf course that you have been to in the recent past. I mean, since you were on the Spicer Speaking podcast most recently, you've been a well-traveled man. You've hit the dusty trail. You've been a real road warrior, man. Different states, different countries. You've gone to Europe. You've gone to Canada. We got a lot that we could cover. Let's kind of start with some of the highlights of where you've been. Even I would say the last 4, 5, 6 months.
Yes. Well, it started when I purchased a full frame, the larger format Sony, first drone by Sony, where I could put a 61 megapixel full frame camera on the gimbal and go up in the air. So I was probably one of the first five in the United States to purchase that. I didn't want it. I was flying the small Chinese DJI drone. It's a 4/3 camera. Most of my bread and butter is print sales these days. And so I need at least a full frame, 50, 60, 100 megapixel camera. And they came along with it's a large drone, but it's not as large as the Chinese Matrice 600 that would carry a large format camera, but also way bigger than the Sony. So when I saw Sony was coming out with that, I jumped on it. My sister and I, we just got it. I actually might have been the first or second person to buy it. So Sony, so then I got to practice at Desert Island and at Desert Willows. Brian was very nice to let me go out there and, without having an assignment, get my feet wet with the drone and figure out everything, how to work it, how to, do my files and that got going. And all of a sudden we got a call probably in April. We got a call from a general manager in Cannes, France, at the old course in Cannes. And we got it written on our website, which sometimes we get these guys on the website that aren't real. So we were a little bit dubious, but no, he said, no, I'm real, I'm doing it. So he wanted me to come over. I said, what about the license for France to fly the drone? He goes, we're not going to worry about that in France. It's too much paperwork. So that was, I had gotten a lot. And when he got me and gave me a deposit for the job, I purchased, I went and did a small test for Ireland, and I did a test for Scotland for the drones. Okay. So I would be fully legal, but France is very involved. He said, just come over here. I'm picking you up at the airport. We're not telling anybody. And so I went over, and that was in June. And I figured since I'm going to France, I'm definitely going to go to Ireland because I want to redo up in the air some of the famous courses I've been visiting. Ireland, I'm actually a dual citizen. So I've been visiting the country since the early 70s, and golf probably in the 80s, 90s, and gotten some beautiful things and made some nice friends and gone to all the famous courses. I'm not going to name them all, but so I wanted to go with the new drone. So we go pandemic, everything's coming out of pandemic. There's not a hotel room in the whole country. So we got one of the last RVs for a month, for 3 weeks. We rented an RV in Dublin, and my second cousin, who lives in Dublin, picked us up. And I had a flash of my passport as I went through the immigration to show him that I'm an Irish citizen. He was totally laughing. And we went over, and my sister was with us. My sister, my wife, and me, all a little cozy in this RV. But when you see a B or C class RV in Ireland, it looks like one of those mammoth things that you buy in Oregon that's $3 million coaches on their roads. So I'm like, yeah, I go into the guy, go, do you got anything a little smaller? Nope, this is all we got. You know, the whole country's cooking with tourism because everybody was backed up with the, pandemic. So it was great though. First 3 days, very nervous. The GPS, we were going to head for Waterville, the first course we were going to do on the Ring of Kerry. And we go over the GPS sends us over this pass. I'm not kidding you, 1 lane pass through these sheep, just gorgeous scenery. But general manager at Waterville, when I arrived, he goes, we just had a American lady came through that same way. We had to sit her down and give her a whiskey. She was so nervous, and she was just driving a car. I'm driving a tea. Anyway, that worked out great. I probably skipped over the France job, but the old course was actually a little bit. It's not on the sea, but the guy has everything striped, and he was all ready for us. And in the background is these harbors of these big yachts, and it's an urban course. It's like and it came out really well. And he had these trees. He has these like 200-year-old trees trimmed this beautiful way. They do the mushroom tops on them. Oh. And we just got a really nice little shoot. He loved it. And my sister did the groundwork and I did the drone, and we nailed it. So then we headed to Ireland. Then we did about 6 or 7 courses in Ireland with the RV.
Okay.
And when we were leaving Waterville, the general manager, Michael, comes out and goes, aren't you, Tom's coming. Tom Fazio Design did the redo at Waterville. And he goes, Tom's coming here in 2-3 weeks he's stopping here on the way to Portugal to open up his new course in Portugal. And he's stopping at Waterville. Aren't you doing Portugal? So I go back to the RV, and the technology today, you can just pick up the cell phone and make a call. I call Beverly Hills to Discovery, and about 20 minutes later, I get a call back. I think this is a great idea. So, we go, what should we do? What should we do? We already had a timeshare rented in Scotland, in St. Andrews, that my nephew was kind enough to let us stay in. It's just a little castle that he had that they call a timeshare, right in all the midst of all the St. Andrew golf courses. So I said to my sister, I go, we're not going to give up St. Andrews. We got to just do Portugal when we get to it. So we changed all our tickets. We went to St. Andrews for 8 days. We were very lucky. We had first 2 days were totally washed out with bad weather, which was kind of good because we got to rest from Ireland and France. So we got to rest for a couple of days, organize our slides our files, and and then it was beautiful. Scotland, of course, it's beautiful. They're getting ready for the Open there, and so the old course was a bit difficult to take photos on, but we did everything else, and we did the new Clive Clark's new Dunbarry links.
Sure, desert friend Clive Clark.
Yes, and Judd and I worked with Clive on an article.
Did.
That was how many years ago was that?
It's probably 4 or 5, about golf course design, when I designed a faux golf course.
He's doing his life ending, I shouldn't say life ending, but he got this great piece of property working with the guys in Nebraska, Landscapes Unlimited, are partners, and he's got these 4 other heavy hitter partners and this property, and he's explaining it. And I go to myself, I'm going there and taking pictures one way or the other. And that's exactly what happened. The general manager, we're calling him from our little timeshare. He's like, oh, it's a little thin. And so we went around. Of course, at lunchtime, we go over there to look at it, and we go, hey, no, this isn't that thin. This looks like really nice. The weather wasn't great. So he says, yeah, okay, you guys can come back and do it. We ended up spending 3 days there. It's just gorgeous. It's going to be the new hit of Scotland. It was like King's Barnes that got, King's Barnes on for a new course is on everybody's radar to play every tour group. They stick it
Mhm.
in for the old course and everything else. And that's the way Dunbarry Links is. So that was very neat.
Couple interjections. Let's go back to the equipment a little bit. I mean, I've seen in person this Sony AirPeak drone, and it is a massive, I mean, with the case included. It's like the nuclear codes, man. I mean, this is a massive case, or perhaps even with your camera equipment, two massive cases. I mean, what's the size and scope of these cases that you were lugging around Europe?
Well, the case with my medium format camera isn't that big. I
Okay.
carry that on all the time. But combined, I always want to bring my ground camera with me. Combined with the Sony case is just as soon as the guy sees it first of all, we think they're going to say no drones on the airplane, no lithium batteries on the airplane. One of my colleagues who does nature work is going to Costa Rica right now with the Sony. He's all freaked out that he's got to put fireproof. We just threw like our regular old our other camera lithium batteries and our DJI lithium batteries. We just took it in the cabin, and the batteries are big for the Sony. They're big. There's 8 of them,
I
and
mean,
we took it in. But the case, yeah, to go back to the case, the minute the guy sees the case at check-in, oversized. Every place we went, we got charged $100 extra, except one place just kind of let it go.
what does
But
that thing weigh? What is the heft of just carrying that case? It's massive.
that case, yeah, no, the case is massive. It's to protect the drone. When I'm here in the desert or I'm in Pebble Beach at my sister's house, I can stick the drone, basically have it assembled, and it can fit in the back of a hatchback, all ready to go for me when I get to Pebble, or I get to the quarry, or I get to somewhere around here. No, when you're going overseas in the airplane, you're not going to be able to bring the drone on the cabin, and you have to have a massive case to protect everything.
Yeah, it's not traveling light, Johnny. It's
No,
not
it was
proving
so
very
it was.
nimble.
I was such one of the first adapters. That's a proof. I got $1,000 case for free by the case guy, because
Okay.
he took my drone and kept it for 2 weeks to measure all the measurements up in Burbank, and I got a beautiful case, and he's selling them now to all the other people that are buying the Sony.
As a point of contrast from the drone and the case that you're working with now, from what you were working with previously, uh, how much bigger is it physically, and what can it do, or what has it done for your photography?
Well, what it does is everywhere we used to go when we were basically really working for like the owner of the golf course or the architect, where we had some power with the general manager and the superintendent, we could politely request a lift truck. So we would always be, and we've had lift trucks on Pebble Beach on the cart path only, driving a Genie high reach, 60-foot high reach down the cart path. So this thing's weighs like tons. So they do not want to see it on the fairway at all. They sometimes they'll let us put it on the rough, but it basically, to make it shorter, simple, we have a lift truck with the files I'm getting from the Sony. We have a lift truck in that case, which is a lot smaller than having to rent a Genie just down here at the equipment rental place in Cathedral City, having the Genie dropped at PGA West Island Hole on the right day
Oh,
with the cloud, with the sun in the perfect position, not dust, not wind like today, and spending that was used to be $400 a day to rent. So you have to have the right day, the perfect weather, permission from the supers. And now I can just, and people, I don't bother anybody really with
really?
the phone. Yeah, no, a little, if I have not, I try not to fly over any customer or member golf. I don't. I try to do it without people. I just came from 2 days of work for this Indian software company at Pebble Beach that rents Pebble Beach every year. And they hired me and my sister because we have the drone and the groundwork. and they wanted a corporate outing shoot with drone in them on the greens of the famous holes of Cypress, of not Cypress, of Pebble and Spanish Bay. And it was great. I got them with the waves breaking and they're putting, and this could be a new little area for us. This is our second one. We did one last year, and the guys loved it from Orange County. And these guys are they're from India. Infos. I can't pronounce it again.
I think it's cool that you did that. I wouldn't want you to stray too far from your art form. I mean, you are an artist along with your golf photography. Over the years, you've done some amazing portraiture. You've had some amazing travels. Your career goes back, obviously, as many know, to National Geographic. Some of these things you recently recounted. I think it was the first day of the American Express a couple of weeks ago with a presentation that you gave at the Rancho Mirage Library. It might be called the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory because they have a
Yes,
big telescope
yes.
there. Sounds like it was a very well attended event. I watched the recap, but the entire thing can be found on their YouTube channel. How'd you feel about your presentation?
Oh, it was good. There was over 200 people.
Solid.
Um,
Okay.
the lady that was there, Judy Vossler, was there from
Sure.
Landmark Land Company. She gave my sister and I our first job down here in 1984 at the La Quinta Hotel. How about that? She was there, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, it went really well. They're great. They're just the whole way their presentations, the way they do things there, everything's first class. It's a really neat place.
As a brief synopsis, did you cover the whole arc of your career and couple that
I
on the
showed about
slides?
120 slides,
Okay.
digital slides on their big screen, and then I would talk about it. Yes, the first 5 minutes I was a little nervous.
Sure.
I do slideshows. I used to do them all the time, but it was always still like 20, 25 people, 10 people. This was a little, standing up in the podium with it was
As I
cool.
said, I've watched the video and you've done just fine. You availed yourself very, very
Thank you.
well, and
Thank
you
you.
picked a lot of great slides. There were some questions that I think the audience had opportunity to ask you some questions, correct?
Yes. Yeah, they
Uh,
were very interested. A lot of guys were amateur photographers
what
and
was
they
your
wanted to,
favorite question that you received
oh
in those
my God. I don't,
presentations? Was there
uh,
one that stood out or
well,
stumped you?
probably the one when they asked me, how I get there. Well, you have to bust your butt to do this, the golf and the nature stuff. And you have to, the lot one, I like to scope things out the day before I do it. That's an ideal situation. Sometimes you can't do that. But, and then I like to be there, in the dark and as a sunrise and figure, I was telling the story about the Mesa Arch in Utah. I had gone the night before and looked at where to go for sunrise. And I'm up there. It's real popular with photographers, right? So I knew there was going to be a bunch of guys, and you want to be the first 6 or 7 guys to get the really good spot for sunrise. I was the first guy. I was going up in the dark from the parking lot with my flashlights and my cameras and my tripods and these 3 Vietnamese guys, American, I think they were American Vietnamese. They were funny. They were walking in the dark, so they went right by where they were supposed to be, and I called them back and we had a nice time together that morning. It was fun.
Friends, you are tuning in to episode 75 of the Spicer Speaking Podcast. My friend, colleague, playing partner, competitor, internationally renowned golf photographer John Henebry is my guest. Be sure to check out all Johnny's work along with that of his sister, Janine Henebry. You can find that online at thehenebrys.com, including examples of many of the courses that we've talked about thus far in this segment. Speaking of golf courses, Johnny, we're wrapping up the West Coast swing this week. You referenced PGA West, which obviously we had the Amex out here about, I think it was 3 weeks ago. I don't know. Time goes fast, man. You've
Yeah.
shot all of PGA West ad nauseum over the years. But I'm curious, I don't think I've ever asked you about the other courses in the West Coast swing. Of course, we're wrapping it up in Pacific Palisades at Riviera this week, preceded by stops at including not limited to Pebble, which we've also talked about a lot. You are one of the few, you and your sister, licensed photographers to shoot at Pebble, but also Torrey Pines, TPC Scottsdale, and again, Riviera. These are courses we've never talked about. Have you shot all those?
I've shot them all. Yes, I have shot them all.
Okay.
I want to reshoot them with the drone. Tori, I want to shoot. I've been talking to their GM. I actually might shoot that next week. That's a possibility.
Okay.
I got to talk to him again. Riviera, I shot for Darius Oliver's The Top 100 book. That we probably did that in 09, 010, something like that. That was a very cool job. We got to do most of the top 100, and he got us into all these. You've heard of him, right? I think you've
I
heard
have,
of him.
yes. We've talked
He's,
about, sure.
yeah. I mean, this guy's so serious about golf. He mortgages his house, second mortgages his house to do books on golf. And we got
Hey.
him. I know he just oozes, you know, design and golf and the whole thing. And he got us to we got to go east and west and got into, you can't call Riviera and just get into Riviera. Yes. We got to do that. I'd love to go again. I just love doing it. I just love going, and especially what's your name, and the older courses and the ones, the
That's what I'm
top.
kind of curious to pick your brain about a little further. I think that there are a lot of golf purists who believe that the course played this week, that the Riv is, aside from major tournament golf, it is in some respects the best course played all season on the PGA Tour. I
Wow.
don't know your impression. There are a lot of golf writers, a lot of golf nuts who are just so in love with this course. I've only played it once, of course, watched it on television countless times, but playing it one time, it really was a thrill. I'd certainly count it right up there. I don't know for you whether it be courses that PGA Tour plays or among the hundreds, if not thousands, of courses that you shot, if you hold Riviera in such high esteem as well.
Yes, I remember the day I was there. That was quite a while ago now, but I remember it being beautiful Saturday morning, and I stayed all day, but I was totally excited, just to be there. You know, uh, I just remember a couple really just, yeah. It's like L.A. North. I've also shot that. I shot that for their book. I believe it was a 75th, or I'm not sure. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's the same, urban kind of course, but just gorgeous golf holes, and they have all these gorgeous trees in both of those courses. No, LA North, and now we're going to see LA North in the U.S. Open. I mean,
Right.
that's going to be exciting.
That's gonna be very cool.
I
Coming
mean,
to
they have said that when we were doing that book, that was again in probably that was before 09, that was 07 or something. They were saying we'll never have a tournament here. The members don't want it.
they didn't for a long time.
I know.
Now they
But they
got the
love
US
that.
Open.
The USGA just loves to have a beautiful golf course near an urban center to get everybody to come to the. I guess they're probably going to do the South Course for parking, and I don't
I
know.
know that guests can expect a lot of shuttling and that there are only so many guests. I think there's only 22,000 people that are going to be
Really?
on the grounds each
Yeah.
day. That doesn't
Yeah.
include some of the staff and media, but it does include the fans, players, the members, and so forth. So it's a small footprint at LACC North. I certainly hope to be there myself come this June. Maybe we'll have opportunity to go together. Who knows, man? Maybe
I'd
we
go.
can
I'd
do
love
a
to go. We
double
lived in
dip
we
credential.
lived up in the clubhouse on the top floor in the rooms for like a week doing that book.
The characteristics that you mentioned, I mean, we've talked a lot of times, and just in this segment here, about just so many different styles of golf course. We touched upon the golden age, classic style design, desert style, more modern courses out here. You referenced all the courses in Ireland and Scotland. Is there a particular style of architecture, a particular era that you enjoy shooting most?
Well, I mean, I really do enjoy. That sounds like kind of a cop out. All of them, they're all so different. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm from Illinois, and the suburban courses up in north suburbs are, they're all over 100 years old, most of them. They're just with those old elm trees and stuff. It's just outrageously gorgeous. and even LA, you think urban, just what I'm saying, there's all those trees on Riviera and that I can remember, and on LA North.
Yeah.
You do not feel like you're in the middle of the city. I mean, and yeah, then there's like Chicago golf with the long fescue, same in Minnesota at Hazelton, you
Yeah.
got that, so it's hard to say what, I love Ireland. I love Bandon Dunes, and, uh, I haven't named all the places I went with the Sony, but you know,
We could have taken up two shows with
I
that,
know
man.
exactly. I mean, when I got back, we spent the summers up with my sons in Port Townsend, Washington. When I got back, and I drove on the way back to the desert. I drove to Bandon with the new drone. I went there once in the middle of the summer also. Then I drove directly from Bandon to Shadow Creek, basically nonstop. To get there, right when the guy did the not verticutting, before he's going to verticut, and we wanted to get there, and I travel in a small RV, and Monty Montgomery, the GM, says, "You're staying right here in the parking lot in your RV, and you're parking your golf cart right next to the RV, so you're ready to go in the morning." I mean, this is cool, and I mean, you go from what I'm trying to say, you go from Bandon Dune, windswept Irish kind
Right.
of golf. That's how Mike Kaiser visioned that place. That's why you're supposed to walk and everything. I mean, you couldn't go from a more opposite place to
No.
Shadow Creek with 60, I'm not kidding, with $13 million worth of trees that were artificially planted in that place. And from there to there. And they're both so cool. That's why I cannot say, you know, which style I like, the Disneyland style of Shadow Creek, or real style, the European style of Bandon. They're both lovely in their own ways. Yeah.
Kind of a non sequitur to finish here, man. But since we touched upon it while we were playing yesterday, since I talked about it a little in the opening of this episode, and since I'll actually conclude this episode talking about my experience recently at Sensei Porcupine Creek, writing that article for Four Magazine. And you and I talked a little bit yesterday about the mindfulness aspect of golf and life as well. It's something that I'm, a novice at, but you have been practicing yoga and meditation and certain dietary things like that for decades and decades. I mean, you have a really expert grasp on a lot of those different exercises and a lot of those different techniques. I'm curious, we talked a little bit yesterday if you apply those to your golf game. I don't know if I've ever asked you if you apply some of those breathing techniques specifically to your work and when the right time to close that shutter is.
Yeah, I would say I don't really think about it when I'm doing the shutter, but when I got the new drone, that was a whole new ball game. I had to get the FAA license, study for that a long time, for a month about, to get that license and fly that drone. It's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I never thought I was going to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's like when I got back and I'm just sitting relaxing, I start reading the manual closer of the drone back from Europe, right? It says, "Do not fly this drone outside of Japan or the United States." I just
Okay.
come back from the 4 countries in Europe. If I had read that, I was already freaking out just doing it. If I had read that, I would have really, but I try to do my breathing techniques, and, just do it. Every job presents its, just flying up at Pebble Beach when the waves right before the huge storm I was up there, the waves were crashing 22 feet, 25 feet. The wind was up. Wind was not unmanageable for the drone, but little breathing had to go into the action before assembling the drone and, getting ready to go up. And it's so exciting when the things are all coming into place anyway, normally, even on the ground. Then you're going to reach up this, your huge camera in the air, your camera and your drone, and go out over the ocean and look back. It's, just breathing, just trying.
Well, as I said, I learned a little bit, but I have no doubt that you can probably teach me
Oh,
much more from
yeah,
your
it
experiences.
saved my life, that whole thing. I've started doing the mindfulness stuff in India in the 70s, and I started doing yoga in the 80s. And the older I get, the more I like doing it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still loose and limber, man. Still
Yeah. I'm
flexibility.
trying. I'm trying. I
Got
gotta
that
go out fighting.
flexibility.
I gotta go out fighting.
All right, man. Pleasure to get on the course yesterday. A pleasure to revisit. It's been some time since we talked about all these travels and is well established in this visit. A real road warrior of late. Friends, don't forget to check out all of the destinations and the photography therein that we just discussed at the Henebry's, HENEBRYS.com. My friend, always a pleasure. Now that you're back in the desert sands, I look forward to seeing a little bit more of you again.
Yeah, and I want to thank you very much for having me again. So I it's greatly appreciate it.
All right. Take
All
care,
right.
John.
Thank you. Bye bye.